before we get into it, if you notice right here, I stabbed myself in the eye with mascara. And then in the process of like rebounding, I stabbed myself in the face.
Oh no.
And then I was just like, you know what? We're going with it. It's a beautiful.
You just have some interesting freckles right now.
Yep. I just have like one little beauty mark, but really it was just me like, Hi, I'm Coco.
I'm Marika.
And we are two friends living in LA. This is where we get together to chit chat and discuss our knitting projects. That took a long time to resolve how we were gonna open this. But let's get right to it. That way we aren't as awkward. Finished objects. I finished the Manson Sweater from Rock Not Wool. And you know, it's taken me this whole time to figure out that all of her projects are cotton. That's why her name is Rock Not Wool, because you're not wearing wool.
Uh-huh.
She's smart. But I took a photo and I'll pop it in of the back of this piece because it's really the key thing. And I'll turn around and show you, Marika.
I saw the Instagram post, but yeah, no, the back is great. It's a really nice sweater overall.
And it is surprisingly wearable in the heat.
Uh-huh.
So it's fully long sleeved, but I roll it up.
That's also an interesting sleeve that it doesn't taper.
Yeah, it's just a tube. So this is knit flat, and then everything was seamed.
Your favorite.
As Marika heard me complain about this week, I have found that the only way for me to like get motivated to do the seaming is to get in a really dark and angry place and listen to Rage Against the Machine and just do it as fast as possible. But it's a very angry experience for me for some reason. And but it was, I mean, it's about being rock, so it was very rock because I was like, like, I don't know, I just hate it. So the whole thing is knit flat, sleeves are knit flat. I accidentally put the wrong side out on the sleeves, which you can't really tell. It's like a broken rib, or yeah, it's a broken rib. And this is the side where all the purl bumps are on the outside, here on the body. And then on the sleeves, I've got the knits on the outside, but that's not the way it's supposed to be. I just sewed this one inside out, and then I was like, that's it, that's how it's gonna be. I'm not redoing it. So then sewed the other one to match. But
I was gonna comment, like, I haven't seen it up close, like in this context before. I've only seen the back on Instagram. But I was like, oh, that's an interesting sleeve detail is what I was gonna say. I like it.
So yeah, see here on the body versus here, the pattern changes, but this is just the reverse side of this. So inside the body of the sweater, this is what this looks like anyways. So
now you have a fully reversible sweater.
No, it's not reversible because of the way that I seam.
Oh, okay.
It's hot mess.
Okay.
From seaming, and if you put that on the outside, it's bad. Also, the V detail on the outside, the right side, has the ridges on the edge to give it the defined V, and on the inside, those ridges don't happen. They're like, so it kind of dips into the big V. So no, it's not reversible, but if you mess up and you reverse the sleeves, it has a nice effect still. Just, it's like, it looks almost intentional. And this was knit out of a discontinued yarn. It's called Classic Elite, the Mika, which is a cotton, and it has like a little bit of a, I don't know, it's a single strand of cotton, but oh no, it's really tightly woven 2 strands of cotton that kind of like make the yarn wavy, and really was a good effect for this sweater. So before I had started it with that Schachenmayer, and I felt like it was messy because there were so many open threads in that yarn. There were like, it was like 4 to 6 ply or something like that. You think since I did the review of it, I'd remember, but I don't. That's why we do these, because I have a terrible memory and I would forget everything about these projects if we didn't chit chat about them. But because of that, I felt like it was really messy. But since this yarn was a really like twisted ply, it held together, and it kind of makes a little bit of a like a slubby effect with the yarn. I don't know. I'm just very pleased with this now that it's done. And I went kind of through a phase where I was like, I hate seaming so much. Let's just seam multiple projects in a row so that maybe I'll get used to it and like get more comfortable with it and not hate it as much. And that's not the case. I don't like doing it. So the next 3 projects I have, I was specifically like, and we're gonna read through and make sure there's no seaming. I need a break. It did not, sometimes I like overwhelm myself to get used to something. Otherwise I'll just keep complaining. And this is something I think I'll just complain about for life.
We got a great sweater out of it. I love the color too. I think the color is really great, especially with the new hair color.
Yeah.
It's really nice.
Yeah, I should do more things in purple. Anyways, so this is my finished object. I finished the cedar pullover, which is what I showed in the Schachenmayer review, but I already shipped it to my mom, and you guys have seen it a bunch of times, so that just got finished and sent.
Cool.
So there's that. Do you have any finished objects?
No. I got nothing.
Let's move on to works in progress.
So I've had a rough few weeks at work. Real long hours, weekends, and on top of that I had a midterm and I have a final on Tuesday, so there has been,
I think that we're even doing this today.
Very little knitting has been done in the past 3 weeks or so, I think, since we filmed last. So what I have to show is the Marlacardigan. I thought I was gonna finish the sleeve, but I didn't quite get there. This is where we're at currently. It's got a pocket.
Okay, surprise pocket.
It is, I think I did something wrong with this because this pocket is huge. And so I should get back in frame. So what I'm gonna have to do is like secure the pocket along the bottom edge so that it doesn't hang below the hemline.
Sure.
But there are no baby pockets here. Like this is full hand in the pocket.
Full hand, full use.
Yeah. Sorry, my Flash player is yelling at me. And yeah, I think it's going. I feel, is there a lot of moire happening on this?
No, actually there's none.
Oh, okay.
We'll see what happens when the recording happens, but it is very like, I don't know, maybe it's because I've been looking at a lot of Pendleton blankets, but there is like a kind of like Navajo blanket vibe I'm getting from it.
I do have to say, like, this yarn is growing on me. I think it's also the way this is, the pattern is designed in such a way.
Like, go like this, like on the bias, which is kind of an interesting thing.
It's a series of triangles, which I think has really helped me with the way the color changes knit up. And so it's not, you are getting these like fun angles as opposed to just like lines.
Yeah, like if it were going across your body, it's not as interesting as like they're starting to go vertical and then they're pulling again and they're giving you those kind of like amorphous shapes that you like.
yeah, so I'm like, oh, it's definitely, yeah, it's growing on me, and I'm definitely seeing it take shape as it's coming along and being like, oh, okay, cool, yeah, no, I think this is gonna work out. This is gonna
Yeah.
be good.
I
And
had doubts.
you had doubts?
I had doubts.
Yeah. So happy surprise.
Yeah, I think like it's gonna photograph well if you take it to New Mexico
Mhm.
and you're like out among the tumbleweeds.
Yeah, I was telling you like earlier, I was like, yeah, it's definitely like, I would describe it as crunchy in terms of its like hippie granola aesthetic, I guess you could say.
Yeah.
But that is part of my aesthetic. So I think we'll be good.
It's a good portion of your aesthetic. Was there anything else you wanted to say about your cardigan?
No, just that I'm very happy with how it's turned out. I think like I'm not good at responding to our comments, but I do read them. And so there was a very helpful request to talk about like why sometimes these projects take me longer. And so also like obviously just I didn't have time to work on it. But in addition to that, I think with patterns, if I can't envision like where it's going and how it's functioning, I have a really hard time just do what it tells you, like knit row 1, knit row 2, knit row 3, and it's like if I can't figure out like where that section of the pattern, like how it's fitting in, where it's going, you know, where I just have to be able to see it in my mind, like the finish line. And with this pattern, it's like geniusly constructed, but it's such a different way of constructing that I had a really hard time conceiving of like how it all fit together. And so the back panel was like, oh, okay, I get this. The back panel was like done like that. But once I got to the side panel and how that interacts with the back panel, I was like, my mind cannot comprehend. And so I had to put it down for a little while because I'm like, if I don't understand what it's doing, I'm afraid I'm going to make a mistake. And I just don't want to rip anything out. So I was like, I'm just not going to work on it for a long time until I've had time to digest and like visualize and figure it out. And so it took literally a week for that to like settle in and be like, oh, and I had to like keep going back to the pictures and being like, how does this work? Like, where does this hook up? Where am I thinking this is going to be? And it was like, it just took a week for me to process all of that information and be like, okay, I get it now. And then I was like, all right, we're good, and like move forward. But so that's also like, I think what slows me down in my projects too is just having to figure it all out.
Right. You're not going to just blindly follow the instructions. You need to know like.
Yeah, it's like, it's my same thing with like, I liken it to growing up in the desert, and like literally where I grew up, at certain points you can your line of sight is only limited by the curvature of the earth. So it's like you always know where you're going because you can always see it on the horizon. You're just like, there, I'm going there, cool. Like regardless of where the road takes me, I can always be like, I'm going there, and figure out a way to get there. And when I moved to North Carolina and there were like trees everywhere, I was like, I hate this place so much. Like I can't see, I'm so claustrophobic. I'm constantly lost because I can't see where I'm going. Like I have to rely on maps and like all this kind of stuff. I can't just be like, there, and then go there. And I feel like that is my philosophy with knitting too, is like, I need a full view.
That's fact.
I need to see all potential routes. I need to see my finish point, you know, like all of that kind of stuff. So that is, yeah, that's Marlacardigan.
So my next work in progress is the Luna sweater by Espace Tricot. And it's so big. but it's like this, okay, restarting, because I totally did not, oh my God, I have so much mohair in my face now. And I knit this one holding together lichen and lace mohair in the pressed flowers colorway, and Lindy chain by Knit Picks, which is a cotton and linen chainette. And it's one of my favorite yarns to work with. When I thought about, I love mohair as well, but most people hold mohair with a merino wool, and I can't do it. I will sweat to death inside of a inferno of a sweater if I do that. So I'm always looking for things to hold with mohair that are going to like cut the heat basically of the mohair. And Lindy chain is one of my favorite to use. I've also used like the Shibui chainette cotton before, which is what I did my ranunculus in, but I'm so in love with this. I posted on our Instagram because we made an Instagram handle just for the podcast, so I could throw stuff up there that I'm like, you know, I don't want to bore everyone I've ever met who has my normal Instagram handle with like all the knitting content. So this is like a place where we can just toss stuff up for knitters only, basically. But I posted a photo of me trying to swatch this, and I don't remember if we talked about this on the last podcast, but I'll also put it in here. And we've talked before about how we kind of struggle with what to do with mohair, like what to hold it with. So it was cool to test it over different colorways just to see how the mohair would change. And the weird thing we found out from me doing that was the speckles really showed up pretty well on this. It's kind of like an icy blue. It's called Mist. It reads like a gray when it's by itself sometimes, but then also when I put it in here, like it really comes out kind of the steely blue. And then I only had one ball of it, and it was not available to order until like December of 2020 from the Knit Picks website. So I had to come up with a different color after I had already started this top part, and I decided to order the cream. So I switched to the cream during this twisted rib section. So that's how that came about. And let me tell you, this twisted rib happening at the widest part of the entire sweater, over 20 rounds, it's a free pattern, so I can tell you, over 20 rounds, is about mental toughness, because it took a long time. And it was not enjoyable. But now we're down into the stock.
Twisted rib.
What'd you say?
What was not enjoyable about it? Like,
it takes a long time to do the twisted rib because you have to knit through the back loop. I mean, ribbing in general takes more time, and then just like that added twist of knitting it through the back loop just seems like it takes even more time. And it's I'm gonna try really hard not to make this one a crop and like knit it to the length that they recommend, but it is becoming like a pretty long project for me to knit this sweater. Also, with it being summer and all, the mohair on my lap is really hot, so I only knit it at night when it's the coolest. And if I, just laying it on me, I'm already starting to sweat, and that's not great. Anyway, so this is, I'm so excited about this, like, Pop Roxy looking mohair. I'm really glad that I came up with a color combination that doesn't hide any of it. And as you can see, as I'm moving through it, like this is super lightweight. It's very airy because the linen and cotton don't add any extra weight to the mohair. So even though this is going to be a pretty warm sweater just based on the mohair, it just feels so luxurious because it's so lightweight and fluffy, that I'm really excited about this. I feel like this is one of my most elegant pieces, even though it's, confetti looking and I don't know.
No, it looks really
It feels elegant. Oh, did you hear that the woman who makes these bags, she's not going to be making anymore?
Oh, really?
Yeah, she has decided to close down her shop, and so these are unfortunately not bags you can get anymore. So I've also been working on the Koivua by Caitlin Hunter. I'll throw a photo in. And I'm knitting this with the hope that it will be finished. And at this rate, it will be finished by the time I go to Yosemite in November. I've never been to a national park before, so.
Not a single national park?
Not a single national park.
What, are there national park? Is there a national park in Georgia?
I don't know. I'm sure there is. I don't think I've ever been to one. Not much of a camper. So, woo.
So beautiful. I love it so much.
It looks kind of like your rambling woman back there.
Yeah, you can see the Caitlin Hunter.
Oh, that's true. So, the pattern calls for spin cycle to be the yarn that transitions through the color work. And I had a poor experience ordering from Spin Cycle online. And it's pretty pricey. So in doing this one, I decided I would try Knit Picks Chroma worsted is what the yarn is called. And it's a yarn that is spun in such a way that it transitions in color. So it, this particular ball starts with this purple and then it transitions all the way into this bright red. So that is doing all the work of this color transition through the yoke. And then the cream is this Retrosaria Mungo is what this one's called. And it is a recycled cotton and wool 50-50 blend. Because again, like I run super hot. And even though I'm going in November, I really am interested in trying like every single wool cotton blend. I'm going to attempt to try it because full wool, like 100% wool, like if you think about those like Icelandic wools, I just don't know if my body can handle that amount of warmth. And I still want this to be something that I can wear here in Southern California, maybe when it's the rainy season, but I still want it to be something that I can wear. So all of that in mind, I was really excited that this is a wool and cotton blend. It's still like toothy and still very kind of woolly feeling. It's not necessarily a yarn that Marika would be excited about knitting with. It's very reminiscent of Brooklyn tweed, which I love to knit with the loft, but Marika's knit with the shelter and hasn't really been enthusiastic about it. But this one is much slicker. It's 100%. It's 100% wool, but it's, I don't know if it's a superwash. I probably could have looked, but it's much slicker. It's really soft to work with. And so when you're in this area. Kind of gives your hands a rest from the woolly textured parts. So the challenge has been, once I got down to this section, I started to have to cut apart all my balls so that I could get this body and the sleeve to line up.
Okay, this is the editorial staff. I'm just gonna pop in to say, Marika pointed out to me that the problem here is that I ordered 2 different types of the same yarn. Chroma being the top half, and Chroma Twist was what I ordered and used on the bottom half, which is totally explains why I've got this whole barber pole issue that I go and talk about through this whole section. So this is user error, and it works out, but I just want to advise you, if you order the same type of yarn, not Chroma and then Chroma Twist, you probably won't have the problem I had with the barber pole issue that I'm gonna go talk about ad nauseum here.
But I feel like I've done a pretty good job here. And the second balls, the first ball of the Chroma that I got, it did this really beautiful transition from like a full orange to a full red to a full purple. But then once I got to the second ball, which happened around here, this one is twisted in such a way that like the reds and purples are all together. Like the purple remains throughout, and the orange and the yellow and the eventual red twist in with that purple. So I had to cut this orange section short because it went all the way down to like the top of this as a full orange, and then it was like a hard line into kind of like craziness. So I just decided I would cut it short, let the craziness happen sooner so that you didn't start to feel like, I don't know, I started to feel like the bottom looked messy because everything else had transitioned so smoothly, and just moving that line up really made all the difference in kind of like the eye accepting that the chatteriness of when the purple was mixing in with like yellow and stuff like that. So I have about 2 more repeats of this textured pattern on this arm. No, 1 more repeat of the textured pattern on this arm. And then I'm gonna end the very tip of the sleeve with some more of this purple. And then I just have to do the other sleeve.
Wow. Yeah, I love this sweater so much. Like I saw the pattern and I was like, I liked the pattern, but like seeing this like iteration of it, I'm like, oh my God, like I'm totally like, all I want to do is completely copy it exactly and make one for myself.
You know, I think you should do it, but I will say this, I feel like the fact that I got a ball that made these seamless transitions into full color was just like a 1 in a million, because the other 2 balls that I got have this blend where it looks like kind of like a barber pole the whole time. And I don't know how I would feel about this if it didn't do that kind of like really solid color up here.
Yeah.
And like if this part was like a little bit more busy visually. So this is one of those times where like I feel like I totally lucked into this sweater, that it was this perfect, but there might have to be a lot more, somebody called this editing, there might have to be a lot more yarn editing to like get the bundles in exactly the color flow that you would want. And in which case, I have seen other people do it with the spin cycle too, but I'm just amazed at how expensive that yarn is when you would have to go through and like basically cut out sections and like basically reorder your flow of how it goes. So I was very enthusiastic about finding a cheaper, almost like more consistent, even though this one wasn't consistent, but it's slightly like more consistent than the spin cycle is, so that I felt like I had a good chance of getting what I needed out of the 2 second balls. And I bought them, like I bought the first ball as a test, and then had to order the other 2 balls separately. So that may have something to do with it. I'm not sure if, I would really hope that whoever's just grabbing the balls off the shelf, like tries a little bit to get you things that look similar. Mm-hmm. But that was my problem with the spin cycle one order that I got. It's true, they all did look similar, but they looked so different from what I thought I was buying that that felt a little dangerous. So I don't know. I feel like with this, I would just feel so much more comfortable if I were buying it in person, so that I could, you know, get a sense of like, how am I going to transition this? Do they look similar? But in all honesty, if I had done that, I feel like I would have not, like I would have spent a really long time trying to make the decision. You know me, I would have been like, I would have spent months being like, I don't know, is this going to work? Is this not going to work? Should I get it? Should I not get it? And so I feel like I really lucked into this one. Pure chance that it worked out.
Yeah.
Not to say that you shouldn't do it. I'm just saying.
Just be prepared that we could have a full-on twin moment at some point with those sweaters.
A what?
A full-on twin moment.
A full-on twin moment. Okay.
Yeah. Because I like, every time I see it, I just am like, it's so beautiful. It's so pretty. Like, I love it so much.
Yeah.
Like,
I will fold your leftovers, and then you can.
That's gonna be a full flex at the knit shop when it's done.
Maybe, yeah.
I've been pattern testing for the right.
Say it again though, because you totally cut out there.
I've been like trying to test some different patterns for this sweater that I like.
Oh, your Bjorn Borg sweater?
Yeah. What is happening on the street?
I don't know. There almost was an accident outside mine. The Bjorn.
So I thought originally I was going to do cabled mohairs out of cable, but it wasn't reading, like, I don't know. I'm finding out a lot about mohair in this process. I've cast on like 4 different times, tried a bunch of different things. I don't think the cables are going to work. So what I'm now trying to do is a lace pattern that resembles cables.
Are you holding it single or double?
I'm holding it single.
You might have more luck, and I know you're already down the road, but you might have more luck if you hold it double with the cables turning out. But go on. You're doing a lace pattern that mimics cables?
Yeah, so I've got 2 lace patterns that are happening. One is the horseshoe lace pattern, and the other is like, it's got like a lead, it's got cable in the name. So it's like the way the lace works is it looks like a cable kind of snaking.
Uh-huh.
But I feel like now so when I started testing the cables, I started on a 3, now I'm on a 6. I think the 6 is too big to make the lace read, so now I'm gonna have to try a different needle size. I am just like, this is insanity. Like, just trying to figure out the correct gauge for this is insane. Yeah. But anyway, so this is the mohair I bought to do it in. It's like a cream, and it's from Barrico. It's their Ariel.
I think it's Barrico.
What did I say? Barrico?
Barrico.
Barocco?
I don't know. I've heard it said as Barocco, but what do you think? Barrico?
Whatever.
Okay.
So this is the Ariel, which is 65% mohair and 35% silk.
Mm-hmm.
So I got it in this cream color, and then also in navy, because eventually I'm gonna have a single line of like navy stripes around. And then I also bought for the cuffs a bunch of things to try out. This like lucked out that was actually a color match to the mohair. They looked very different on the website, but luckily they match pretty well.
Yeah.
And this is the Lang Yarns Jowl Superwash, which is 75% virgin wool and 25% nylon. And since this would be the main component of the cuff and collar, I thought like the nylon would be good to add structure. And then I bought a couple different other ones. This is the Lana Grossa Ecopuno, which is 72% cotton, 17% virgin wool, and 11% alpaca.
Mm-hmm.
So I bought that in red and yellow.
Mm-hmm.
And then I also tried this. This is not the color I wanted it to be. I have to get a different color. I think this is Debbie Bliss Toast, which is 65% wool, some 25% polyester, polyamide, and then 10% cashmere.
Mm. And
so,
that in real life, is that one like too true blue? Because the navy you held up looked straight up black.
Yeah, it does. It does look like when I first pulled it out at night, I was like, oh, I made a mistake. Like, but in person, it definitely has more of a navy sheen to it.
Mm-hmm.
And this one, the only thing is like for the cuffs, I might have to get two blues because it's like navy if you're doing the Fila lines, but then he also has these like Swedish sweatbands that are like more of a royal blue. This one is not the color I would like it to be. It looks way bluer on camera than it is. It's not. It's like a very like dusty, like denim-y blue.
Okay.
In person. So I think I'll probably return that. But those are my purchases. I'm trying to figure out a pattern, how to write a pattern, how to swatch for a pattern, how to just like do it all, which is very quickly becoming very overwhelming, and maybe I should have picked a different project to try to do a pattern on first, like that poncho. But this is where we're at currently.
Well, you're working in, like, you don't usually work in mohair, and you have done lace weight, but I think you like cables more than lace. Not lace weight. You don't usually do lace patterns. I think you like cables more. So there's a lot of things that you're like stretching yourself on here.
Mm-hmm. And learning a lot in the process. I also got this book from the library.
Yes.
So, I've been using that as my reference point. I don't know, but it's been a good resource just to be like, what does this even mean? Or how does this function? What are the recommendations? So that's been good. And it has a whole section on designing sweaters at the back.
Okay.
So those are my purchases. Those are also like what's been distracting me the last couple of days from working on the Marla, because I'm also on Sleeve Island, so that's not very fun. I hate the knitting needles I'm knitting it on. They're like these bamboo ones that I had in like tucked away, and I can't find my Hayas size 9, and I'm like, where did they go? Because I feel like this project would be so much faster if I had those.
Is it the cardigan is like a full long sleeve?
Yeah, so you kind of like, it's like this kind of shape, you know, so decrease to here, and then from here to the end, you go back to garter stitch.
Okay, yeah.
So, and I'm knitting at magic loop on these needles I hate, and I'm like, I just want my Haya sharps. It would make the world so much better.
Yeah. Totes. I have one more work in progress. I got this Lion brand Pima cotton because Joann's was having a sale on the Lion brand.
Okay, that's a really beautiful color too.
Called Spice.
Ooh.
And I think you would love this yarn. It is really soft to the touch. It's Aran weight, so anything you knit with it is going to go pretty fast. And it was like, I think it's usually $6 a ball. And I got this one for, it was on sale. So I got it for a little bit less. But I decided, we've talked so much about Junko Okamoto's patterns. And I was finally like, I feel like I've put a lot of weight on how glorious my rug and my bouquet sweater have to be. But I have heard that she writes really interesting patterns as far as like the construction is very interesting. So I wanted to attempt one of her patterns without so much like personal expectation, like, oh my God, this has to be perfect. So anyways, I am attempting to do the Meg sweater, which is a DK weight sweater, but I'm gonna knit it in this Aran weight so that I'm hoping that it gives the cotton more structure, like makes it, since I'm knitting a larger yarn at a tighter gauge to equal the DK weight, that maybe it'll keep the cotton from kind of like growing too much. So I'm really excited about how springy and like soft and glorious this is. And the interesting part of this is that I'm not going to give much away, but basically I learned a new cast on with this one that's like Judy's something cast on. Basically, it's a cast on that you use to do toe-up socks so that it starts kind of like in the round and you're working two needles at the same time to do the cast on. And I have tried it before trying to do toe-up socks, and it has not sunk into the brain before. But clearly I got it this time, which is very exciting. But so the first thing you do starts out trippy. And then from there, I'm loving this cabling. Like it's just popping so well with this cotton. The stitches are all super defined. And of course, this is a shade of pink in some way, shape, or fashion. So I'm loving the color. But yeah, if you want, this is a really good cotton to try. I really suggest it, and quite affordable. Anyways, so I'm gonna roll right into, in the purchase of that yarn, I also purchased this other yarn that it's gonna be a color departure for me.
Yes, I love it.
So I'm gonna try Marika's mustard. So this is, again, Lion brand. This is called Reline, and it's part of their, they've got a couple of things that are either like recycled yarns or something like that. This one says, it's a linen that comes from flax and doesn't require chemicals to be processed into a textile. It uses 13 times less pesticides than potatoes. So these are all yarns that are attempting to have some kind of more ecological focus. Like they have one that it's recycled wool. They have another one that is using more cotton. So I'm interested in all of these. I'm always looking for something that is gonna not be too hot. It's machine washable as well. So, but I am going to kind of mess this up because I'm gonna attempt to hold it with a mohair.
Oh, okay.
So.
What mohair?
What mohair indeed. Pearl Soho might have been having a sale. And I got this.
Oh my God, you're making all my dreams come true.
Look at this. That's like a perfect marigold.
Yeah.
So as we all know, I don't even put my toe into the yellow world. I fear it. I'm afraid of it. Don't understand the boundaries of it for myself, because I feel like whenever I wear yellow, like my skin changes. It just looks different. But I'm hoping that holding these two together, and they don't look tonally the same. So I'm interested to see what happens there. Is this beautiful, or is this going to wreck itself? Who knows? I'm fascinated. But I'm hoping if I hold these two together that this like marigold kind of takes over, and this is just a supporting cast member, and hopefully it'll look okay on the skin. But this is definitely gonna it's gonna need a swatch, probably a larger swatch that I figure out if it's gonna be good or not, because it's so interesting. This by itself against my skin, I'm not sure. Maybe it's fine.
Yeah, I think it's fine.
These together, they don't look like they're gonna work, but we'll have to see.
Yeah, you never know.
With Mohair, we don't. I never know what's gonna work and what's
always a surprise.
So, in said sale, I might have gotten more things. I got this guy.
Oh my God, I'm loving everything.
So,
that is amazing.
I'm gonna hold it back here. So this is more true to color. It's a little bit more like
Coral?
It's not salmony. And if it's coral, it's like a deep coral, like it's closer to a true orange than to like pinky coral. Mm-hmm. But I mean, this is gonna be fine. It's gonna work. It's gonna be fabulous.
I did, my last little sticky note I have to talk about is, I don't know, I have labeled it Knits in the Wild, but I don't know how we want to caption it or if we even want to include it. But I just wanted to, even though I'm not really knitting that much at the moment, I have been like watching things and just kind of found a couple knits that I was like, oh my God, those are great. One of which is, if you've watched Glow Up season 2 on Netflix, one of the judges in episode 2 has this amazing, it's like a bright orange cardigan that's covered in googly eyes. And I love it so much. I took a screen cap, we'll put the picture up here, but just knitting goals there. And then the other one was...
I have a question on that one though.
Yeah.
The main feature of that though is the googly eyes. Mm-hmm. Couldn't you just get a commercially made sweater
and glue some googly eyes on it?
Yeah.
I guess you could. I wonder like what it would look like if you translated the googly eyes into a knitted. So it's like,
would it roam? I guess.
Yeah, it would roam, but I don't know, it could be fun.
Yeah.
I just liked the whimsy of it. I like a good whimsical knit. And then the other one was one of my quarantine splurges, I guess, was a subscription to the Metropolitan Opera's on-demand service.
Right.
Because I love opera. And I found, like, especially with work being so crazy, what really helps when I get super anxious and super overwhelmed is like putting on an opera that I am familiar with. One thing that has really helped too, like if I get like super stressed out and I like go take the dog on a walk, I put on the soundtrack to the Keira Knightley Pride and Prejudice.
Okay.
It's just like beautiful like piano music roaming. And then I was like, oh, this really helps. So then I started like at night watching different operas, and it's been so great. And in the process, I've been watching, the stage design and the costumes and stuff like that. And I was realizing like, oh, you don't really see a lot of knitwear in theatrical productions, like mostly because like those costumes will get reused over time and they're hard to alter. So not a lot of knits. But I was watching Un ballo in maschera, and there is a character, Ulrika. She's like the queen of the gypsies. And in the production, the 1991 production, she's played by Florence, I think it's pronounced Koivua, who is amazing, like gorgeous voice. That whole production, like everyone that's singing in that is fantastic. Luciano Pavarotti is your main dude, so you know, gonna be good. But she is wearing this like crazy poncho that is incredible. It's like red and pink and brown, and it's like super chunky, and she's got all these like strings and threads, and it's just amazing. And I was like, oh, I love it. It's so great. So those are my two like knits in the wild. Would love these to be part of my collection. You know, maybe at some point I'll have to figure out how to make them. The Ulrika poncho does remind me of, I think it's a woolen gang pattern. They have like a cowl that's got like all these little dangly bits.
I think I've
And
seen
so it's
that
just
one.
like that on a much larger scale.
Okay.
So that one seems very tangible in some form or another. The googly eye, if I wanted to incorporate the googly eyes into the knit, might be a little more labor intensive.
Yeah, well, I would think staying true to the integrity of the original piece may be important on that one, and just go ahead and purchase googly eyes at varying scales so that you can just apply them to your knit.
Yeah.
Well, shall we close it out? So what are your goals for next time?
Probably to maybe finish that Marlacardigan sleeve.
Finish the sleeve.
And yeah, I don't know, maybe I'll try and, I don't know, there's so many things floating around. I still have to cast on the other part of the trove to get that going. Like I've kind of abandoned that for a bit. I think again of a similar thing is it's just too much mental work to figure out the next step of the pattern right now.
Is it difficult? Something difficult about it?
No, it's just like, you know, I hate picking up stitches to cast on. Like the way you hate seaming, that's how it's like, pick up stitches. And I'm like, no, I don't like it. I'm always second guessing myself. Like nothing ever lines up correctly. Like I just hate that process so much. So that's what I'm avoiding on the trove at the moment.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm excited to see all of these things, especially all of that Pearl Soho mohair.
All right. Well, cheers.
Cheers.
Happy knitting.
Happy knitting. I got the Sandman, Neil Gaiman's Sandman on Audible, which is like the full cast, you know, like it's like a radio drama kind of thing. And I loved all of the comics. I have all of the comics. It's so good. And this is basically the first, I think 2 to 3 collections of the original comics, you know, told in this audio drama, and it's just really well done. So Argus has been getting much longer walks as a result, because I put it on when I walk the dog, and I'm just like, oh yes.
I saw that on Audible, and I totally dismissed it because it was like, if it's a retelling of a graphic novel, wouldn't it have been better to have seen the graphic novel first than to the first experience of this be an audio version of a graphic novel?
I don't know, because like, so it's been a long time since I've read them, so I went in, you know, with the memory faded a little bit. and it's a pretty accurate retelling of the graphic novel in terms of content and stuff like that. And then I found I started pulling them out and being like, oh, maybe I'll read them now and like refresh and see like what the differences are, how things line up. And I don't think you need it. I don't think you need the graphic novel aspect to enjoy it. I think if you then wanted to like look into the graphic novel, you could, but I don't think it's like absolutely necessary. Like there's definitely like hidden gems in the graphic novel, you know, that can't come across, you know, like things in the back, way things are drawn and stuff like that definitely help enhance it, but I don't think it's necessary to have that as a base going into the audiobook.
Well, I just assume that like with a written novel, you get descriptions of place. And with a graphic novel, I would assume that they don't have to do those descriptions of place because there's a visual component with it. So then as an audio version of a visual book, I wasn't sure that they're basically like just acting out the dialogue and you're getting no understanding of the place?
No, so Neil Gaiman acts as the narrator. So he sets up all of these different scenarios and places and times and, you know, that kind of stuff. So there is that descriptive aspect through the narrator.
So it's almost like a new piece. Because that text did not exist in the graphic novel.
Yeah, I mean, I think it does exist in a little bit because like the graphic novel takes place across such a wide range of places and times that it's not just like, oh, we're gonna draw like an English pub in the 1300s and not tell you it's an English pub. Like there are these like stage setting texts in the graphic novel. I think there's just a little bit more elaboration on them or description added to them in the audiobook.
Well, coincidentally, I said hard pass to Sandman, which was an option for me because of what we talked about. And then instead I got The Ocean at the End of the Lane.
Oh yeah, that one's good too. I have the book of that.
So that's a book I'm just starting now.
Yeah, I love, it just reminded me too, like I hadn't read a lot of Neil Gaiman recently, but I love him so much. Like I was obsessed when I was younger, like, you know, saw him at multiple book fairs. They have multiple things signed by him. Like when the Sandman is part of, like the Sandman is this character Dream, who's part of the Endless, which are these group of like dream, destiny, desire, despair, death. There's two I'm forgetting, but he wrote this standalone book called The Endless, and each part of the book is about one of the Endless characters. And he did this signing in New York when I lived there, and I waited in line for like 3 hours to get him to sign it. And he drew Dream in the front cover in like silver Sharpie, and it's like one of my most prized possessions. But that's like the little nerd in me that's like, oh my God, I love Neil Gaiman so much. But yeah, it was just fun to go back to something that like I hadn't looked at in a long time, but like enjoyed so much the first round, and have it be like this whole other new experience. You know, it was almost like I got to, you know, read it for the first time again kind of thing, which was really nice.
Cool.
And was just like, oh yeah, I am a total like, you know, sci-fi fantasy nerd.